Welcome to a special WTCH presentation. Race for Sheriff 2018. You decide. The views and opinions expressed on this program today are those of the host and those appearing on the show. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of WTCH Radio. WTCH makes no representation of the accuracy, completeness, or validity of any information on this program. These interviews were previously recorded this week in privacy. The playback order is by random selection. After all presentations have aired, WTCH will make copies available at our website, tchdailynews.com. Enjoy this special programming, Race for Sheriff 2018, You Decide, from WTCH Radio.
Good morning, I'm Doug Rogers on WTCH AM 960 at 96.1 FM. Welcome to our special programming today, Race for Sheriff 2018, You Decide. Our studio guests this morning include candidate for sheriff Keith Sorlie, WTCH's Kayla McKenzie, moderator Chuck Dallas, and videographer John Kupski. We're going to turn this over to Kayla McKenzie before we get started with our candidate to pass along useful information for the voting process.
We're joined first by County Board Chairman Jerry Erdman to give us a brief explanation of the requirements to become the county sheriff and to give us a general overview of the day-to-day duties that our sheriff has. Hi, Jerry. How are you?
I am doing wonderful on a super day like today.
First off, what are the requirements to be sheriff?
Okay, the legal requirements, according to state statute, is the fact that you only have to be 18 years of age and not a felon on your record. That's a legal limit.
Can you describe the role of the sheriff? What's the job description? What are his general responsibilities?
The sheriff actually oversees quite a bit. He oversees his budget. He oversees the jail budget. He's in there planning and predicting what automobiles have to be replaced. He is actually a working sheriff who's out on the road. The sheriff's role primarily is a one that does budgeting, heavy into finances, because the sheriff's budget is primarily 100%, almost 100% tax levy dollars. So it's all money that comes from the taxpayer. So one that is fiscally responsible and prudent to where that money goes and how much he expends is crucial.
As far as staffing is concerned, what's his role in staffing his own deputies and the jail?
Okay, the sheriff's role in the correctional part or the jail part of it is to make sure that we have adequate correctional officers for the number of inmates. I believe according to state statute you have to have so many correctional officers for so many inmates. One of the sheriff's job is to make sure that jail is fully staffed.
Okay, Jerry, thanks again. That's County Board Chairman Jerry Erdman. And I'd like to note that on our website, tchdailynews.com, we do have a featured segment with County Administrator Brent Miller that goes over the statutes for county sheriff, and you're welcome to check that out. Primaries are coming up Tuesday, August 14th. We're also now joined with County Clerk Pam Schmidt. Hi, Pam. Could you describe your role with the county?
Basically the administrator of the elections for the county.
You have a sample ballot in front of you. The sample ballot is also posted on your website. What's the website for the county?
www.co.wi.us.
Just describe a little bit about what is on the ballot. What's the ballot going to look like, and what are we expecting when it comes to voting?
Okay, so in Shawano County we have basically two different types of ballots. We have an optical scan ballot, which is also known as a mark sense ballot. What a voter needs to do on that ballot is just simply connect an arrow to indicate which candidate they're voting for. You cannot cross over parties. If you cross over a party using this ballot, when it's fed into the tabulator will kick it out saying that they've overvoted. And a voter can actually, they can correct their ballot at that time. They can have up to 3 ballots to, get it correct. The other type of ballot that we have is a paper ballot. And what the voters will receive in those communities that use those ballots, they receive a packet of ballots. There's actually 5 ballots that are stapled together. They simply tear off the party ballot that they're going to vote on and deposit it into the ballot box. So there's no chance of overvoting on a paper ballot. And the other style that we have is everybody's used to the touch machine. No chance of crossing over on that ballot either.
Okay. So again, when we're voting, as far as the sheriff race is concerned, on this ballot, you are going to see 2 of our candidates. That's going to be Adam Bieber, and that's also going to be John Gutho. You will not see Keith Sorlie on this ballot. And just to help with possible confusion, can you explain why that is and where we're going to see Sorlie on the next election?
Sure. There aren't any independent candidates, no matter what level of the state or county government that will appear on the August 14th ballot. Independent candidates are running outside of party designations, so that's why they'll move right on to the November ballot.
Let's talk a little bit about absentee.
Okay, we do have information on our website that people can actually download an application to vote by absentee. All of the clerk's addresses and phone numbers are out there also. A lot of them are by appointment. There is no longer a ruling as far as that the municipal clerk has to have in their office the in-person voting for a certain designated amount of time like it used to be years ago. So it's up to the clerk what they do. Most of them, though, they will take the absentee in person up until the Friday before the election, but all of those will be posted. Right. They can vote absentee simply if they just don't want to go out of the house to vote.
All right. Is there anything else that we should know as far as the voting process is concerned? What to bring?
Do need to bring photo ID in order to vote if you are already registered. If you're not registered, you can go online to register. If your driver's license has your correct address on, you can register online and you will automatically be in the poll book for your municipality. Otherwise, if you aren't pre-registered, what you'll need to bring to the poll is your driver's license. Like I said, if your address doesn't match, then you'll need to bring like a utility bill or a bank statement, something of that sort to register.
Okay, again, we're talking with Pam Schmidt. We want to thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Pam, thank you.
Thank you.
That is Shawano County Clerk Pam Schmidt, part of WTCH's specialty programming today, Shawano County Race for Sheriff 2018. You decide. Now, Chuck Dallas.
Thank you. Today we're talking with candidate Keith Sorlie. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you for having me.
We'll begin with a brief biography, 2 questions, and then we'll allow Keith to take the floor and present his platform for the Shawano County Sheriff. So, Keith's biography. Keith Sorlie is a resident of Green Valley Township. He grew up in the neighborhood where he currently lives. He and his wife have 2 grown daughters, and they've hosted many international exchange students. Keith graduated from Gillett High School in 1986, where he received special honors for academics, sports, and leadership. In 1990, he earned a bachelor's degree from Carroll College in both criminal justice and English. He graduated from the Executive Development Institute of Fox Valley Technical College in 2013. After graduation from college, Keith joined the Wisconsin State Patrol, where he served as an inspector and as trooper in the Tomah area. 4 years later, he was hired by the Shawano County Sheriff's Office as a deputy. Keith Sorlie was a patrol deputy for 5 years and a detective specializing in drug crimes for 15 years. Special roles he held at the Sheriff's Department included being an instructor for firearms, electronic control devices, and defense and arrest tactics programs. By the time he left the Sheriff's Department, he was responsible for the firearms and taser budgets and was the commander for the Special Response Team. In 2015, Keith joined the Shawano Police Department, where he currently works as a patrol officer. He's been a field training officer for every department that he has worked for. A career highlight that he received the Shawano Optimist Club Officer of the Year Award 3 times and was nominated for this award by 3 different administrations. Being a public servant is his calling, and he is honored to serve our citizens. So again, welcome, Keith. Glad you're here with us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
So our first question, Keith, so why are you running for the Shawano County Sheriff's position?
Well, I decided to run for sheriff for a number of reasons. Basically, the reasons on my platform. Number one, the county board gave the sheriff a raise starting in 2019, and that raise was 8%. Unfortunately, the other members of the sheriff's department didn't get a raise that was equal to that percentage. And I think that given the trouble that we're having keeping employees at the sheriff's department, I think the raises should go out to the employees first and then to administration later. So as part of my campaign is to ask the county board to rescind that raise and to give that money back to the employees at the sheriff's department. Secondly, I've termed it as a duplication of services, but that might not necessarily be the right way to describe it. I see money that's being spent in areas that I don't think is the most beneficial way for us to spend the money. And so that's another reason that I'm running for sheriff. For instance, and I've addressed this on my Facebook page, last winter, the Sheriff's Department paid overtime for deputies to patrol the city of Shawano. Well, the city of Shawano already has a police department, and so I don't think that the citizens of Shawano got the most bang for their buck by putting deputies on overtime in the city, especially given the fact that last year Shawano County saw an increase in burglaries and an increase in property loss from burglaries. Finally, I see a problem at the Sheriff's Department where we are not retaining personnel very well. Since 2015, we've lost approximately 50, almost 60 people. And when you're talking about a department that's about the size of 100 people, 60 is a pretty big number. So those are the big three things that I want to address as far as running for sheriff. The one other thing that I did want to mention is I'm running as an independent as opposed to the other two candidates who are running as Republicans. I feel that's important because it allows me to address issues from a standpoint that doesn't force me to take a stance, a Republican stance or a Democratic stance or any kind of stance. I can judge for myself what I think is best for the people of Shawano County and act accordingly.
Okay, good. So our next question, Keith, is can you address how you feel on the transparency of the sheriff's office? Is there too much transparency, not enough, the right amount when it comes to informing the public on an incident or inner workings of the department?
I know currently the Sheriff's Department maintains a Facebook page that keeps people up to date on incidents. My opinion is that there have been a couple of incidents where the Facebook page gave out too much information early in the investigation of the incident. For example, last summer there was a house explosion in the town of Westcott, and very soon after the initial incident happened, there were pictures on Facebook concerning the incident. And while that's good, while that might make some people feel better to be able to see the picture and to know that it might not be something that's going to happen again, it's a hindrance for the people that are investigating the crime. Number one, if somebody dies in that incident, it's essentially a murder scene, and so if ultimately the incident had to be prosecuted as a homicide, anybody that had seen that picture would be tainted as far as a jury panel goes. So, and also it hinders the ability of the investigator because sometimes you don't want the suspect in an incident to know everything that you know. And if you're showing pictures of the incident to everybody who has access to Facebook, you've kind of hindered your ability to do that.
Sure.
So in that respect, I feel that there might be a little bit too much transparency, but there's also incidents where there's a lack of transparency. For example, last summer, the Sheriff's Department was sued by an ex-employee, and I don't think it's ever been reported as to how much that lawsuit cost the county. So in that respect, there's not enough transparency. What I'd like to do as sheriff is be as transparent as possible, but still protect the crime scenes and still protect the public. For example, in that incident with the explosion last year, it would have been acceptable just to say, hey, this incident is under control, it's being investigated, we're doing our best right now, stay tuned for further information and we'll update you as quickly as we can.
Okay, good. Well, Keith, we want to give you a little bit of time to talk about your platform and your campaign for the sheriff's office, so I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I think we've really kind of addressed the platform earlier. As I said before, I'm running as an independent. I think being sheriff is about bringing justice to the people of Shawano County and about keeping them safe. It's not about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or anything like that. It's about understanding that your responsibility isn't to a political party. It's about being responsible to the citizens of Shawano.
So our next question kind of ties in with a little bit of your background. Opioids and drugs are a nationwide epidemic. What can we do to not only be tough on drug crime, but also be smart on drug crime?
When I worked for the Sheriff's Department, myself and another detective and the captain would go out and give talks about the drug epidemic that was really starting to hit Shawano. What the captain would say in those presentations is it's not enough just to arrest people. You're not going to arrest your way out of this epidemic. And so part of the platform there was to educate people as to, hey, this leads to this and this leads to this. And so there was an education component to that. I feel that there should also be a treatment component to this. Okay. A couple of years ago, I was on vacation, and I got a telephone call from from a business owner that I'd been working with. And the business owner said, hey, I've got an employee here who admitted to me that they use drugs and they want treatment. They want to get into treatment. Where can we go to get this person some help? And I said, well, there's no place in Shawano County that we can send her to help her. She has to go to Green Bay or somewhere in the valley or something like that. So as part of my responsibility as sheriff, I'd like to work with the community to try to bring some kind of drug treatment here to Shawano. Okay. We've had some success in the past with different programs. The Safe Haven initially started as basically a volunteer thing, to my understanding. Right. And now the SAM 25 homeless shelter starts as a volunteer program. Yeah. So why can't we do the same thing for people who want to kick the habit of drugs? And I think giving them an opportunity to fight their addiction is an important step, because that's one less person that's going to be buying drugs from the drug dealers. And that's one less opportunity for the drug dealer to make money. And so maybe instead of looking at Shawano County as a place to sell drugs, they'll look somewhere else.
So, Keith, what should be on our radar as the next big concern for the Sheriff's Department, the deputies, or the jail that you think we'll be facing over the next 2 to 5 years?
Well, we already talked about the drug epidemic. I think the drug epidemic is really driving a lot of crime here in Shawano County. This year, we've already had 3 armed robberies, and my opinion is that all 3 of those were driven by someone looking to get money to buy drugs. So I think the drug epidemic is something really that we need to focus on. Another concern is our ability to retain people at the sheriff's office, okay? In the past 4 years, as we talked about already, we've lost almost 60 people from that department. The 2017 Sheriff's Department annual report says for jail staff it costs $10,000 to train and replace each person that they lose. Okay. So if we've lost over 50 people in the past 4 years, we've spent $500,000 training people and hiring people. Right. That's too much money. We're not using our money effectively, and it may be that we have to give people some raises. It may be that we have to find a way to make the people that are working at the Sheriff's Department feel like they're a better part of the community, or make it more of a family at the Sheriff's Department. Studies have found that people don't necessarily stay at a job because they are paid the most at the job. They stay at the job because they like to be there. So we need to make the sheriff's department a place where people like to be.
Okay. All right. Do you see any opportunities, Keith, to cut department expenses or reallocate funds into different program services or equipment?
I've looked a little bit at that, and that really hasn't been my main focus. But there are, I think, some opportunities to do that. For instance, at the sheriff's department, we have 6 detectives, but one of those is a detective sergeant. I feel that the captain could handle the detective division, and we could make the detective sergeant a regular detective. Now, it's not going to save us a whole lot of money over the course of the year, maybe $2,000-3,000, something like that. But I think if we look at the command structure at the sheriff's office, at the jail, we might be able to save a little bit of money by rearranging the command structure to some degree.
Okay. Okay. Well, and that kind of leads into our next question, and you've touched a little bit about this, but see if you have some other thoughts. Do you see other items, programs, services in the sheriff's department that are maybe redundant with those of the city of Shawano or the surrounding villages and their departments in the county? And can we share some of these things to make things more efficient?
We do a pretty good job right now of sharing services, I think. It's really hard to say, given the fact that the other departments in the county are so small and they depend so much on the sheriff's department for services. The city of Shawano, like I said before, is the one jurisdiction that mans its jurisdiction 24 hours. The other departments are depending on the sheriff's department for coverage to some degree or another. And so the sheriff's department really is doing a pretty good job of sharing its resources right now, I think.
Okay. What is the Shawano County Sheriff's Department missing in relation to law enforcement technology that's currently available today that could enhance the ability of the department and the deputies?
Well, that's a question that might be a double-edged sword. I mean, there's certainly technology out there that we could use that would help us, in our desire to protect the citizens of Shawano. But is it going to be cost-effective for us to get that technology?
Sure.
For example, we can't do drug tests on some drugs now simply because we don't have the field tests don't keep up with the technology of the drugs. And so those items have to be sent to the crime lab to be tested, and the crime lab is already overwhelmed with drug cases, so they're not testing stuff like plant material and things like that. And so it's hard for us to say, hey, this plant material didn't test positive for marijuana, so is it synthetic marijuana? All right? Well, if we're only going to write a citation for synthetic marijuana, the crime lab's not going to waste its time testing the synthetic marijuana because they're so backlogged. They have so many other things to do. So I guess if we had some kind of technology to test the synthetic marijuana, that would be helpful. But again, is it going to be cost effective for the county to do that? I don't know. I don't think I could say that would be true.
Okay. Well, Keith, you've touched on retention within our visit here today for the sheriff's department. What are some things that you would do to try to attract some deputies to Shawano County?
Well, I don't think it's just deputies that we need to attract. I think it's correction staff and dispatchers as well. In fact, those are the two areas where we're really losing people faster than we're replacing them. Not faster than we're replacing them, but faster than we're losing deputies for sure. Like I said before, that we need to make the sheriff's department a family so that people want to come to work there. We need to address scheduling problems. My understanding from talking to some of the jail staff that left the sheriff's department is that the 12-hour schedule simply isn't working for them.
Okay.
The advantage of the 12-hour schedule is that you get every other weekend off, basically. Okay, you get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off every other week. But because we're short-staffed, people are getting called in on their weekends. Well, if the one big advantage is that you get every other weekend off, and then you're losing that advantage because you're short-staffed or you're always training people or something like that, then it really doesn't have an advantage. Like I said, at $10,000 per person, we've lost 39 people out of corrections in the past 4 years. So $390,000 worth of training, not to mention, the training that had already gone into some of those people, and now we lost them either because they've decided to retire or because they've decided to go to a different job. Sure. So we need to address we need to find out what's causing these people to leave. We need to sit down with them and have a conversation. When I left the sheriff's department, I got a letter that asked me why, I kind of fill in the blank type thing and then please mail it back. Well, who read the letter? I don't know if anybody even did read the letter. So we need to have conversations with people. Hey, how come you're leaving? You got a offer for a better job? Outstanding. You're leaving because you don't like the schedule? Okay, well, then we need to start to take measures to fix that.
Sure.
The 2017 annual report says that state law and county policy are one of the causes that people are leaving. Well, if the county has a policy that's costing us $390,000 over 4 years, it's a policy that we need to take a look at least.
Yep. Okay. So, Keith, our last question here is, why should the citizens of Shawano County vote for you, and what makes you stand out as the best choice?
Well, like I said before, I'm running as an independent because I believe that I should be responsible to the citizens of Shawano County and not responsible to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or anything other than the citizens of Shawano County. My goal is to be a servant leader. I want to develop the employees at the Sheriff's Department so that they have a sense of ownership, so that they have a sense of responsibility at the department, and so that they have a sense of pride there. By being a servant leader, you give power away from the bottom up instead of from the top down, and I think that builds better leaders who will be better trained and better equipped to become leaders in the future.
Good. Well, thank you very much for coming in, Keith. Wish you the best of luck in the election.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have just a few minutes of available time left, so you have the floor for any final thoughts or statements on your candidacy, Keith.
I just appreciate the time here very much. I understand it gives me a chance to get my message out. As an independent, I am at a little bit of a disadvantage. I don't have the same contacts, say, that the Republican Party or the Democratic Party have, and as a result, I don't have the same amount of funds available to me to spend. Also, because I'm working full-time right now, I don't have the same amount of time to spend out on the campaign trail as the sheriff and as John Gutho do. So please forgive me if I don't make it to every parade and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean that I don't care about your community. It just means that I'm working too.
Very good, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening this morning for Race for Sheriff 2018 You Decide here on WTCH with our candidate this morning, Keith Sorlie.